Regular people are taking their knowledge and turning it into a successful online course. Today, you're going to hear from Hugo Ortega, who in just 2 years has gone from an idea to $10,000 to $20,000 per month with his online course. Stay tuned to hear exactly how he did it so you can do the same. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Online Course Show. I'm your host, Jacques Hopkins. I've been your host here for the past 7 years, and we love to feature successful course creator success stories. And that's exactly what we're bringing you here today. And my guest is Hugo Ortega. Hugo is awesome. He's one of my favorite people in the world. Full disclosure, he is in my coaching program and has been in my coaching program for just over 2 years now. He actually was the very first person to sign up for kind of the coaching program that exists today. I've gone through different iterations of what I offer, how we can help course creators and aspiring course creators. And a little over 2 years ago, I launched a program called OCG Coaching, which was a very high touch program, lots of pre-recorded training, but then I work with you personally to start or grow your online course business. We have since actually broken OCG Coaching apart into 2 separate programs, and that's because of you and who this audience is. It was very clear that there are 2 distinct segments of my audience here. There are those that are on the beginner side, that are just getting started. Maybe they just have an idea. Maybe they've kind of dabbled in getting started. Maybe they made the course, but they haven't made any sales yet. And how I help those people is a little bit different than those that already have courses. They have course businesses. They're making a little bit of money. They just want to scale and they want some direction on where to go, what they should be focusing on. So it started with OCG Coaching, and we have split it now. OCG Coaching now has become Genesis Courses and Next Level Coaching, depending on kind of your starting point. But Hugo is that very first person to sign up for OCG Coaching, and he's actually stuck with me ever since. So when we split it up a while back, he was still in the Genesis phase and has since graduated many months ago now to Next Level Coaching. So he's a very active member in Next Level Coaching. But I wanted you to hear his story, not just because he's been through my programs, because it's a great story. It's a story of some struggle. It's a story of persistence. It's a story of always learning, always trying to get better. It's a story of some failures. It's a story of learning from those failures, trying new things, and really figuring out what's working. So over the course of roughly 2 years, you'll hear that Hugo's story is not an overnight success, and not everything that he tried worked, but he kept at it. He kept going at it. He has an amazing wealth of knowledge in his niche. Right? I haven't even explained what his niche yet. It's really cool. The word I'm about to share with you, I learned from Hugo a couple years ago. He is a yachty. That's the word I learned. So he teaches people to become yachties, which are these people that work on yachts. They're yacht crew, right? So if you have a rich person that owns a yacht, he needs to hire people to help him run his yacht. He needs a captain. He needs wait staff. He needs cooks. He needs cleaners. He needs, I don't know, Hugo could tell you all the different positions that exist, but that is a niche market that he stumbled upon himself and really enjoys. And then people started asking him, hey, how do you do this? He was an engineer like me, and he wanted more from his life. And being a yachty allowed him to do so many cool things with his life. And now he's showing others how to do that. Another thing I love about Hugo is how much he's willing to give back, right? So I have no doubt about how well he's able to help his people in his niche become yachties, get jobs on yacht boats and whatnot. But he's so active in my community, and he's always looking to reach out, help, give his advice, give his experience, his opinion on other people's situation that are starting, growing their online course businesses as well. And honestly, I think that's part of his success too, is that he's been so willing to reach out and help and give his perspective. I think that's a valuable part of this process as well. Some specifics that we'll get into would be Instagram strategy. That's been the main platform that he has used to grow his audience. So you'll learn from him how he's grown his Instagram, but then more importantly, gotten those people that have followed him on Instagram to then jump over to his site, into his funnel, and ultimately buy his program. You'll learn about his funnel and how he's had to kind of tweak that over the months and years to really fully optimize it, how he's tweaked his offer, right? This is all about rolling out version 1 of things, seeing how the market responds to it, and then going into version 2 and making it better and better and finding that ultimate winning formula. And this is a story of that. So congratulations to Hugo and all the success. It's such an honor to have him on, and such an honor to have him on this platform and share this conversation with them. So without further ado, here is the conversation between myself and Hugo Ortega. What's up, Hugo? Welcome to the Online Course Show.
Hey, Jacques. Thanks for having me. Really excited to be here.
Same here, man. Where are you today? I'm at my home office. Where are you located?
I'm in my home office too, man. It just looks a little bit different, a little bit more tropical over here. I'm in South Thailand. So I've been here since about April. I spent 6 months here last year. So I like spending a lot of my time in Southeast Asia.
Why is that?
Well, the food's amazing. The cost of living is great. And I think probably in a romantic sense, it's where my whole journey began, which we'll get into a little bit. But that was the first place that I traveled where I really got the idea to want to live an alternative lifestyle, to travel, to do kind of challenge the status quo. So I've always stayed near and dear with Southeast Asia throughout the last 10 years.
Do you yeah, obviously we'll get into the story. Do you speak the local language?
Not enough is for how long I've been here, not enough, no, honestly. But I do speak a lot of phrases. And when I go and order local food, like that's all in Thai, counting money and that kind of stuff, pleasantries. But this time, especially working so much, it's really, really hard to pick up. But usually when I'm traveling, I'm really good about picking up certain phrases and just using enough to get by.
Yeah. I haven't spent much time there. Like, do a lot of people speak English and you can get by with that?
It really depends on where you're going. Like, let's say when you're in a mega city like Bangkok or any of the normal cities, it's absolutely no problem. Everyone, even the oldest auntie, as we'd say, they'd still know some English. But once you get into more rural places, like let's say mountain villages and stuff like that, that's when you see it just kind of exponentially decrease. And then it's just smiling, pointing, that kind of stuff.
All right, let's go back. Go back as far as you want to go. Let's talk about your story, how you ended up living in Southeast Asia, right? When you said it's where your journey began. Like tell us about that, your journey beginning.
So just like you, I started in engineering. That was what I did originally, but I really, really didn't like what I was doing. I didn't like my life. I didn't like the job that I had. And it was while I was backpacking around Southeast Asia that was where I met what we call now, that was where I met my first yachty. And that was the person who really opened my eyes that there was an industry where you could travel, you could have fun, you could see beautiful things. I mean, he was going to Saint Tropez, he was snorkeling with people in the Bahamas, he was getting paid to drive boats. And that was where I really first got awakened to the idea like, holy, I've kind of been living in the matrix my whole life. There's so much more that you can do because, I went to college like so many people because that's what I thought would lead to, making enough money, being successful or, whatever you're chasing in that sense. But with yachting, I realized that what I loved to do, which was travel, I didn't have to pick one or the other. I didn't have to either go have a serious job or go travel the world, which is what I was doing at the time. And even though I had no experience working at sea or anything like that, like his stories were so good. And for someone that had already spent a year traveling the world, no one had better stories than I did, right? Everyone was telling me, wow, like your life's amazing. I would love to do that. I could never imagine traveling so much. And then here I go, I meet this guy and it's kind of like an ego check. Like, oh, wait, I don't know anything about traveling yet. So slowly I started traveling with him more and more. And after about 3 months, he really wore me down. I was like, this thing, I thought it was just some cool job and I never really imagined that I could do it, but helped, he really helped inspire me. And I was like, okay, I need to do this. It's a sign. Like, I'm really not happy with my life. Let me go chase this. And that's how I got into yachting. And 1 year turned into 5 and 5 year turned into almost 10 years. And what started off as just a quick, like, getaway so I could keep traveling became a career. And then I was working as a super yacht captain. I got more and more licenses and I got more and more locked into that lifestyle.
And if because I like to travel, I like the alternative lifestyle stuff. And if I would have had that experience where I meet this yachty and it's like, oh, that sounds intriguing. You know what my first thought would have been? Would have been like, I could never do this. I would get so seasick. Did that cross your mind, or you don't really get seasick?
To be honest, I had really never spent much time on a boat, so I didn't even know if I got seasick. We had done like a 3-day trip across Indonesia together, but I had no boating experience. So that was the cool thing. It was something that I thought I couldn't do. But I met him and he kept talking to me about it. He didn't have a lot of experience in it either. I mean, he had gone to university for some other technical degree as well. And he wasn't like a maritime person. He wasn't a sailor. He wasn't anything like that. And he explained to me, like, look, there's a ton of people that do this job that have never worked at sea before. Like, it's not something that's only for people that come from that background. And again, like you, I was like, I don't even know how to swim. I don't really think that's for me. And for some reason or another, maybe he was there to help me. That's why he was there, and that's why I met him. But he then took me to get scuba certified. He helped me learn to swim. I started meeting more and more of his yachty friends, and they all convinced me, look, like this is something you could really do, right? It's a real career. And that was really what shook me. Because I think if I would have only met him and then it would have been passing, like I wouldn't have done it. But he really helped inspire me and kind of shake me from that, oh, I don't think I can do it, to yes, like you have this in you too. And that was really, really cool.
So did you ever actually end up practicing as an engineer?
I worked as an engineer for 2 years. So I did it in oil and gas, and I worked in Houston. I worked in Oklahoma City. Probably why I didn't like what I was doing, to be fair. But yeah, I just didn't like it. There were so many acronyms. There were so many meetings. There were so many people that seemed so passionate about things that I couldn't even like care less about, right? The efficiencies dropped by so much. This is the amount of man hours we're losing in these operations, and come time this stuff. Like it was so mind numbing. I just really didn't like it. I worked as an industrial engineer. I worked as a mechanical engineer. I worked in manufacturing. I was in like a rotational program because that's what I got recruited for, kind of next level talent or future leaders at the company. But I just couldn't get behind it. I couldn't like it.
What drew you in? Because I guess you didn't know all those things once you became an engineer, but what drew you into wanting to become an engineer?
To be fair, I think the only reason I went into engineering was because I was good at math and sciences in school. And to my knowledge, if you want to make money in the States with math and science, one of the quickest routes is engineering. You don't have to worry about getting a master's. You don't have to worry about a PhD. So it just seemed like something that I should do. And in my household growing up, like my parents are immigrants, it was always like, you're going to college. It wasn't, what are you going to study? No, sorry. It wasn't, are you going to go? It was, you're going to go to college because you want to have a better life than we did. And like I said, when you get there at 18, you don't really have any idea. I was between a few things, architecture, a few different things, but engineering seemed like it made sense.
Very cool. All right. So we got the story of how you kind of became a yachty yourself and then a captain. Amazing. And you did that for almost 10 years. Tell us about when the idea of teaching others to do that first came onto your radar.
Yeah. When you start working in yachting, it's not uncommon for people to message you, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on social media of any kind, and really be jealous about what you're doing, right? It's so different to have a friend whose newsfeed is just suddenly beaches, nice boats, like really attractive people. So it's really, really normal to get messages from people, especially at the beginning of your career, saying, hey, how do you do that? Like, I want to do it too, right? So even early on, I was used to giving that feedback. Like people would message me, and it's actually really common in yachting. And we kind of eventually start to tune them out and not respond because you give people this like really heart to heart message about this is how you do it. You have a long chat. Sometimes you even have a phone call. And then at the end, nobody does anything. And that probably plays into later, like we talk about with courses, the fact that if someone doesn't pay for something, if someone doesn't have to work for it, they don't usually take advantage of it. I think that was my first exposure to that. So I got used to telling so many people, but I never had the same luck that my mentor did, right? He jokes that I'm like the only person that he ever told about it that got into it. So the same thing, a lot of people in yachting get into it because someone told them, because it's so romantic, it sounds so amazing, the stories are so great, but it's a really slow entrance in that sense. So anyway, I got used to doing that. And then later in my career, I was working as a mate, and we were doing the Panama Canal crossing. So we went from Florida to Mexico, then we went to Costa Rica, and we were crossing over. And one of our fishing guides, he was like really, really good. And we hired him on to be a deckhand. And I just really, really got on with him. We had a really good time. And I saw that he was a really good worker. I was like, man, this guy would kill at yachting. And he was earning in his local country like really low wages. Being a fisherman, I mean, he loved it. He's in Costa Rica. It's beautiful. But just as the more I got to know him, I could tell that he wanted something else. He was kind of nervous about money. He aspired for more. He wanted to travel. So we got to talking, and it was something that he was interested in. And he was kind of one of the first people that I formally mentored. I helped him write his first CV. I gave him a reference letter for him to go get a visa to go to America. We started talking about what courses he should do, and I really helped walk him through really what he needed to do. when he needed to do it, and just explicitly outline it for him. And that kind of showed me like, oh, like he later on then became a captain too of some small boats. And I was like, okay, like this is something I can tell. This is something I can teach. And there was a few other instances that I also helped some people. And I've also always helped crew members. Like I don't know why I'm one of those people that people come to ask for advice. And I've slowly come to realize that I was doing a lot of this, but in a really informal way. And it wasn't until COVID that I started getting onto the track of online courses. And I thought like, oh, like I've already done this in some capacity. I think I could probably do it for more people.
Really cool, man. How important do you think it is to have been able to help somebody with the thing in person before you start breaking out and going online and doing online courses?
I think one of the best things about starting out in person is just you get immediate feedback, and it's really, really easy to establish a connection with people. I mean, I don't know about you, but starting out when you started piano in 21 days or when I started this, it's kind of nerve wracking to have these conversations and do everything over Zoom or over some kind of online medium. I don't know. There's a extra barrier. People are more nervous. I was more nervous. So I think I was able to just be more myself and just be more at ease when doing it in person. And also, there's a whole element for me when I'm doing it in person. I can also show them how to do the job itself, which was one of the strong suits too.
So I just think it's really cool that you did start out teaching some people in person. I don't think that's like required personally. Like I didn't do that, but I think it's better, and I think it gave you confidence that that like, you knew what you were doing, right? Because it's one
Hmm.
thing to know how to do the thing yourself. It's another thing to be able to help people do the thing as well. Just because I can do something doesn't mean I know how to show somebody else how to do that thing, right? Because in a lot
Right.
of times I'm so far removed from being a beginner in that thing, right?
Right.
Somebody like that's a world class pianist that's been playing for 40 years and they're just like on top of their game isn't always going to be the best person to teach a complete beginner piano because they're just looking at it from such a different perspective.
Yeah.
But you showed some people in person, it worked for them. I'd imagine that gave you a great confidence boost as you went into trying to do this online, right? So tell me about when you decided, hey, I wonder if I can scale this online. When did online courses come onto your radar?
I think it was really good to do it in person for the first time just because it made me more comfortable with the whole process. Because teaching someone something, even if you've done it, until you see the results repeat, I don't know about you, but I get a little bit inside my own head like, is it going to work a second time? Like, even when I was going through my first batch of students, even though I know what you need to do, you worry, right? Are they going to fulfill it fully? Are they going to do everything that I taught them? Is it going to work? And I think being there in person gave me a little bit more of an ease in understanding, okay, like this is something you could do. Look, I've got the results right in front of me.
Yeah, but you also mentioned that you tried that there were several people along your journey that you did try to help that never like they liked the idea of it, but they never really did anything. They never really succeeded with it. So is this just a niche where it's like really appealing but so hard to follow through with, or like or just so different of a lifestyle to follow through with? Like what? Like yes, this fisherman succeeded, and you've obviously taught a lot of people to succeed at this point. But
Mhm.
why do you think so many people don't end up succeeding with it?
I think one of the interesting things about yachting is that it's such a huge life shift, and people don't, for the most part, make these big grand gestures, right? Unless they're in the movies, people aren't just going to drop everything and walk away. So already the niche is like a really small select group of people, but those people are really, really flexible, right? That was me. I was backpacking for a year. I was ready to go into yachting. I was ready to teach English in China. I was considering like a lot of radical changes. So yachting attracts those kind of people. It's not your everyday person. So there's so many people that probably even follow me on Instagram, and they love what they're seeing. They love the luxury. It scratches all the senses. But to get up and really think, hey, I'm going to go do something completely different. And the hardest part for most people is I'm going to go quit my job, save enough money, and go look for this other job in this thing that I have actually no experience in, and it'll probably all work out, right? That everyone will tell you you're crazy, right? My parents thought I was crazy. You're throwing away an engineering degree. My friends didn't tell me, but I know they thought I was crazy. And everyone thought, is this even a real job, right? Because who's going to get paid to drive jet skis? Who's going to get paid to drive boats? And look, there are hard parts of the job, of course, but it's a really great balance for the people that are willing to change their life, to have these things like the unlimited travel, a taste of luxury that they wouldn't seen otherwise, just a vision into a life that they would have never imagined. Like to those people, it's worth it, right? And for me, I've always been someone that just wants experiences, and I think that's what yachties want. They could have got into this, they could have gone into Peace Corps, or they could have gone and taught English in Japan in another life, right? They just wanted to do something so different, just to really stretch themselves. And that's why I think a lot of people sit on the sidelines and they're really scared, because people just are scared of change. They're scared of such a big change.
That reminds me of when I told my boss I was quitting. I had worked as an engineer myself. I worked for 8 years, right? You did it for a couple. I worked for 8 years, same company, same boss the whole time. And so when I told him I was quitting to do my piano lesson business, right? He was very supportive, but also his attitude was kind of like, you mentioned parents. You're going to throw away your not only your degree but 8 years of engineering experience,
Yeah.
right? You're just going to throw that completely away, right? And he had mentored me for 8 years, so like I totally understood that perspective.
Mhm.
But that's what you saying that reminded me of that. It's like, but what about this? Like you're just throwing that away?
Yeah. And it's hard, but I mean, it's not thrown away, right? Like I think my engineering studies like helped shape me as a person. Those years in university really meant a lot to how I developed as a person. A lot of the things I think today, and even probably how I approach this business and my technical abilities and where I lean, and so much that I do is because of that. I don't need to have my check coming to me from an engineering firm to feel like I got what I needed out of a college degree. If anything, the college degree is just to learn, right? And that's what I like about so many European countries, and that's what I've seen through yachting too, right? There's different focuses around the world, and for them, going to college isn't really an investment in terms of you're going to put in $1 and get back five. It's just, I want to go learn, and this is the place where you learn. So, I mean, everyone has their own perspective, but I don't think I wasted my engineering degree. And I think this is way better to me. I saved so much more money while doing this. I went to so many more countries and did so many more things that I wanted because of it. And that's so much more than so many people can count for back home.
It's great perspective. All right, so jumping back, when did online courses get onto your radar?
Right, right. So online courses were never the focus at the beginning. Let me just go back a little bit. When I was first looking into getting into yachting, I was looking at online business. But back then, in 2013, it was a lot different landscape. And I was looking into different tools, and for whatever reason, I just couldn't get my head around it. I was trying to do some blogging, and because that was the hot thing back then. But anyway, it never got into anything. It wasn't the right time for me. I found yachting. That sounded way better, right? I'm going to go make a lot of money. I'm going to go keep traveling. I'm going to put this aside for a while. So it wasn't until COVID probably where I started to see again that so many people were getting the opportunity to work online, make money. And even though I love my job and I love where I was traveling the world and doing that lifestyle, there's always times that I thought, okay, maybe at some point I want to either start a family, or maybe I just want to switch and bounce between two things. Because yachting's so flexible, I was thinking I wanted to create some kind of lifestyle where I would yacht part of the time, but also be able to make money elsewhere. And for most yachties, that's real estate. So I was looking at a lot of different things. But again, the online business kept coming up, and I started doing some research because at the time I was in Amsterdam and it was winter. It was dark all the time and it was really depressing. It was during COVID. They'd shut everything at 5, like even the gym. Like you couldn't do anything. So all I started doing was listening to podcasts, just really to kill time and try to better myself. And I was looking into a lot of different things. I was looking into different programs, and I kept falling in different niches. Everyone kept talking about information products. Like if it's something that you know, it's something that you love, if you can put those two things together, or at least it's something that other people don't know, sell your knowledge, bundle it together, curation, like all these buzzwords kept popping up. And actually your podcast was one of the ones that I found during that time. And that's what I started listening to. I started listening to people in all these crazy niches and all these different industries that bundled up their knowledge and taught people how to do it. And I slowly started to realize I'm kind of sitting on a gold mine, because not really anyone's doing it on that scale in my niche. And it's a money making niche, right? I'm teaching people how to make money and have a career that changes their life. Most people like they're ecstatic afterwards, right? After we stopped working together, and no offense, right? I didn't just teach them how to play piano. I taught them how to do something that, no, I'm just kidding. But no, really, like some people, they're ecstatic. They're like, wow, I never thought I could do this.
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't
not I'm
shit.
not teaching people to like have completely life-changing like live a completely different life, right? I'm teaching
Exactly.
people a hobby. I take no offense to that statement. I completely understand.
So it just seemed like something that was really, really powerful. And again, I think like with yachting, it took me about 6 months after I knew I wanted to do it. It's still such a big life change. So I was thinking about it, umming and ahhing. And I think the same happened with the online courses. It's like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. Life gets in the way, and you started umming and ahhing. But I think because I've already done yachting, which was basically let's burn the bridge and leave the old life and start something new, it kind of makes it a lot easier the second time. So as opposed to a lot of people, I saw that you had a program and I saw that you were taking in new people. And I was like, all right, let's burn this bridge and let's start doing that because I'm on to the next one. And that's when we started working together. And that's when I didn't even have a website at the time. I slapped something together in Kajabi just basically based on listening to a few of your podcast episodes. I heard things over anyway, and then we started working together.
Yeah, you were, I know you know this, but you were the first person to sign up for my coaching program, the one that exists today. So a couple of years ago, has the process be completely honest, right? I'm not looking for you to butter up my audience or anything. Like, has it been easy?
Has the journey been easy?
Yeah.
No, man, the journey isn't easy. It's easy in the sense that I know what steps to follow listening to you, but living through it and walking through it, man, this running a business is there's so many struggles to it, there's so many pain points, but it's rewarding, it's great, and it's been amazing to watch it grow. But by no means is it easy. It's not just plug and play. It's been work. Probably something I would want to stress to people that are listening. I've spent so much time researching this and wishing to be in this chair right now talking to you about it, right? And I'm finally here, and it's good. It's great. And I still now I see there's so much more work than I thought, right? Like my next goal now is so much further along. So it's cool, but it's so important to know that it's not just hit play, have a ton of passive income, sit in Tahiti and just sip cocktails and, go on Instagram every now and then and count the money. It's work still, but it's great to work for yourself. It's great to do what you love, and it's great to work with people, but it's work.
Yeah, like I said, I want you to be completely honest because as the host of this podcast and as the creator and runner of my coaching program, it's really easy for me to be extremely biased and also just like want to sell the dream, right? Online courses, it worked for me, it can work for you. It's easy, it's fun, all this, right? But that's why I like to highlight real stories, whether it's somebody that's worked with me like you have or not. Like, let's find out really what it takes, right? And
Yeah.
for you, like I want the audience to really know what it takes and what it takes even with my help, because it wasn't a magic pill, right? But your work ethic and diligence has been incredible to see. But it wasn't an overnight success, right? Was there any point in time over the past couple of years where you considered giving up?
Multiple times, man. I think if you probably would have asked me last month, I wasn't really going to do it, but I was going through a moment where I was like, man, I'm just putting in so much time. There's 50,000 people almost listening to what I'm saying. Like, why does it take people so much massaging to buy? And I think it might be niche dependent, but for me, there's always a lag time for when people buy, right? As we just said, it's such a huge commitment or even just a huge mental obstacle to think, that's it. I can do it. I'm going to go into yachting. And yeah, I have the magic customers that land, and let's say even within a week of first getting exposed to my universe, they buy. But for the most part, it's not like that. And I think the first time that I was thinking like seriously, like what's going on, it was probably December of 2023. You and I were meeting for a one-on-one, and we were sitting there, and I was like, man, this offer is great. I've helped certain people, but look at the numbers. I'm not getting enough. And that was when you and I suggested, well, maybe you should even pivot and just start helping crew that are currently in the industry and help them maybe make more money or get to their own outcome even faster. I was seriously considering changing the offer, doing something, because to me, I felt like at that point I had been in it for over a year, and it still wasn't it still wasn't enough money to sustain a lifestyle. It was profitable, right? Let's say I think the business was costing 2,000 something and it was generating somewhere between 3 and 4,000, but that's not enough margin to live. And I was just so frustrated because you do hear the stories that are instant successes, right? I was always dreaming of being the next Spencer Russell. I wanted to just get in there and everyone sees the yachts and suddenly I own one and you're coming on for the ride. Bernardo's coming on for the ride and we're just setting off into the sunset, but it's not like that. And it was humbling, but we just kept working. And that's what we've always done, like really, really focusing on doubling down on content. And we have really good approach with our clients and customers. Like people can DM and I talk to them all the time. So I'm really active in that. And all that's a time sink, right? All that takes time. And you go into the DMs on Instagram and you think you're going to go in there for 3 minutes or I'm just going to reply to this one person. And next thing you know, it's 45 minutes and hours gone by. And it's good work, right? You're warming up leads. And I can go into that as much as we want, but it's work. So I do want everyone to know that you might get lucky, right? But I think you had one piano guy on here, and I don't want to misquote him, but he said something like virality is not a business strategy, but persistence, or maybe it was consistency. That's basically the only way to get there.
That was the piano guy, man. That was Jermaine Griggs. Yeah. He's the OG in my space. He said that virality is not a strategy, but it's a byproduct of consistency.
Yeah, and that stuck with me. I think that's really, really good advice because even if you ask me now, I don't think we still know the magic sauce sometimes with what goes viral in our niche. We know we put enough pieces in the right way and we present it a certain way and it has a chance. But we do know that if we do that for almost every piece of content, then something's going to go. And when that goes, everything else comes with it.
Hey everyone, I want to take a quick pause from the conversation with Hugo to tell you about a special offer for my coaching programs that doesn't come around often. So some of you are where Hugo was a couple years ago with a great idea and want a proven path to follow. You want to be with a community of others doing it too, and you want a mentor holding your hand along the way. If that's you, then you might be a great fit for Genesis courses. So I told you a little bit about that in the intro. Genesis is my beginner coaching program where we walk you through all the steps to not just build a course, but a course business that is profitable and makes an impact on others in a big way. Others of you maybe are further along in the process. You have a course business already making some sales, but need guidance on what to work on to continue to scale it. And that's where our next level coaching program comes in. Now, the doors are always open to these programs, but a couple of times a year, we offer special pricing and special bonuses. And the next opportunity for that is in just a few days. Next Monday on September 23rd, we're offering 20% off of both programs as well as special bonuses. So if you've been considering joining, now is the time. And the first 10 people that sign up during this window will actually get a new secret bonus that I normally don't offer. I'm not going to tell you exactly what it is, but I will tell you that you will definitely love it. And it has something to do with even more time with me directly. And as a podcast listener, listen in, I'm giving you the first shot at those first 10 spots. So while I'm opening up the special offer to the public on Monday and it ends on Friday, so it's next week, you can check it out right now and potentially claim one of those first 10 spots. To get more information about this, about the programs, and to apply, head to ocgcoaching.com. That's ocgcoaching.com, OCG for online course guy, ocgcoaching.com. Okay, now back to the rest of the conversation with Hugo. I would say that you're a good case study of slow and steady growth. I think you did make started making a little bit of money early on because you put an offer out there where you could offer some one-on-one consulting. And then you mentioned a year or so in, you're like 3,000-4,000, like this is good, but it's not what I wanted. And then, tell us how you're doing today with it.
Yeah. So I'll also go back and I'll say that one of the great things that happened too at the beginning, even though like I said, we weren't generating that much money, was that because we were consistent and because we were putting out good looking content and because we were active, especially in our niche, I got noticed by a yacht owner that had just bought his yacht and he needed someone to manage it and he needed someone to do recruitment for it. And that was when I thought, okay, I can do that. That's in my wheelhouse. And I kind of pivoted, drew up a contract, started looking at what the market was doing in my niche for that. And I already had a lot of industry knowledge on how recruitment works, how the fees work, and so many other things. And I basically just pitched him, right? And I think that also was partly due to you. I learned okay, you make an offer, you pitch it to someone. If they like it, they'll take it. If not, you go back and forth. And I did that, and that was what really kept me alive during that first year because I was making like a retainer of between 5 and 10,000 a month, and then any other fees and any other recruitment fees that I could charge on top. That was what sustained me during that course business at the beginning. And I think if I hadn't put in the work to look good, to try to get the audience, even if it was small at the time, I wouldn't have had him to find me. And maybe I would have then had to go back to a yacht, and then I would have had to work longer to save the money to come back. So again, the consistency is what helped this move along, even when it wasn't on its own shoulders. But going back to your question of what we're doing now, I mean, I was just talking to someone in the group about this today. So last year in July and August, I had two sales. At the time, it was for a $300. It was $299 for the product. It was just basically the course in its most basic form. I had recorded myself teaching it live once, and I was in the process of changing everything. So it was really, really cheap. I sold two. So I had $600 in July, and maybe it was like 600 and something with an add-on in August. And now in 2024, July, we hit 10K in revenue. And then this month now we're at 15K in revenue. And, we still got a little bit over a week. So I'm really, really hopeful of getting to 20K. So that's the baseline of what I want to do. But ultimately, the last few months, I think we've been just getting pretty much around 5 figures. So that was a goal I had for 1 year. But like you said, it's not linear and you never know. But I'm really, really happy with the growth and where we are now. And it's really good to see everything working. It's good to see people trickling through the funnel at a good rate. And I'm just excited to see the fruits of everything because it's been a journey, man. And at the beginning, I remember being scared to really sell, right? To even talk about this is the price, this is what you're doing. It was like, go to the webinar. I don't want to deal with it. And I've had to implement a lot of things, but I'm really comfortable on sales calls now. Like I talk with the customer. I don't mind pitching things. Like we're talking about doing a higher ticket offer as well. And it's all just because of the grinding. The grinding has really, really helped.
All that hopefully provides really good context to the listener. Let's give even more context in terms of the way the business is structured today. Let me address, you just mentioned sales, like you're not afraid to do a sales call, but like most of your sales don't come through a sales call, right? That's not necessarily the call to action, or is it?
No, it's not the main call to action, but it's something I implemented. I kind of found that sometimes I get contacted on really on any social media, whether it's Instagram, whether it's Facebook, people will be really, really hot and I can just feel it. And especially with this industry and with this niche, like sometimes if someone's hot now, I'd rather talk to them than send them through the webinar just because they might be crew on other type of boats. They might have whatever obligations that they have. So I'll start a conversation with them and I follow a kind of framework of basically trying to figure out what's their problem, where are they now, and where do they want to go. And if it sounds like someone that is pretty hot, they want to do it relatively soon, and maybe they're even already talking about money or buying a course, like because I tease that a lot in my stories and I sell in the stories. So everyone knows I have a coaching program. Everyone knows what I do. So anyway, when I see customers like that, I will just pitch sometimes, hey, I've got a couple minutes. You want to hop on the phone and see if you're a good fit. And I'll try to do like a triage call in about 5 minutes. And if they seem like a good call, I'll say, hey, this is awesome. I'm on the way to do whatever. How about we tomorrow? What's your schedule look like? Let's have a full sit down and I'll tell you how I can help. Right. And that kind of creates a little bit of anticipation. And then it also relieves the pressure because they know that the next thing that's coming out of my mouth is going to be a sales pitch of some sort. They might not know when in the call. They don't know the price, but they know that that's what they're going in for. And I found that helps. And sometimes it's nice to just sprinkle that on top to the normal funnel that's already working. And I don't mind doing it every now and then. Sometimes too, I'll even just pitch that in my stories. I'll say, hey, if you're on the fence, if you're thinking about it, like, let's chat. I don't mind hopping on the phone. And I had a couple nights ago, I had a couple. They were both thinking about it and they just had a few questions again, not really like how to do it, but about the program. So I kind of skipped the triage. I just got them on the phone and, I was able to close a $2,000 call with just massaging them for 20 minutes. So I know that's not completely scalable, but I am starting now to set up a system where I'm keeping track of what leads are the warmest because eventually I would probably maybe try something higher ticket and maybe I could do setters and closers, right? Like that could be a really good funnel for me. And I think I'm just trying to be really open-minded because I got into this thinking, okay, it can only be this. It's going to be a webinar. It's going to be this. But really, you have to see what works with the market. And I'm seeing that the calls work really, really well.
One-on-one is the best way to sell from a conversion perspective. You're always going to get the highest conversion rate because you're able to handle objections on a one-on-one level. However, as you mentioned, it's not the most scalable model. But I like how you've kind of integrated it into what you're doing. You have a scalable funnel, but you're not afraid to do calls here and there where it makes sense. Right? Some
Yeah.
people it's one or the other, right? We only sell through the phone or we never sell through the phone. And you've been able to add that on top, which I think is really, really cool. So
And I
tell
think
us
that,
next about the
oh, sorry.
funnel. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think the reason I'm so flexible with that approach is really because when I was going through that year of growing, and at that point, I felt like, okay, anyone asks, I'm going to drive them to the webinar. I'm going to spend all my time creating content, right? Like I had a really rigid idea of how this had to work. And I think when I saw that the revenue wasn't hitting what I wanted, I was like, okay, maybe there's different systems or way to make this work for me. And I think because of that, maybe sometimes I fall into shiny object syndrome and start going off into different directions because I like thinking about so many ideas. But I also think it's one of the greatest strengths to be flexible with this business because we have the luxury, right? There's no overhead, there's no building. This thing can be completely different tomorrow if I decide, hey, from now on, I'm only doing boot camps that are $5,000. And if you don't want to do this in 1 week intensive, whatever, like you're not coming. Like I can, and I have a big enough audience that maybe I could find a customer for that. So I think you have the audience, it solves a lot of your problems.
So tell me about that scalable part of the funnel. What does it look like?
The is in the evergreen webinar portion.
Yes.
Yeah. The main funnel that I'm using is an evergreen webinar. So if someone comes into my world, whether it's through Instagram, Facebook, or so many ways, they fall in love with the content, they're looking at it, and they're eventually going to get caught in one of the hooks at the end that's going to say, hey, if you want to learn more, if you want to do this same thing, or if you want this to be you, comment, and I'll usually give them a keyword to comment and I'll give them a resource. Most often is my how to work on yachts masterclass. So it's a 45-minute video that walks them through everything they need to know, demystifies the myths, how much they're going to make, and all presented in a really nice way, easy to digest in a quick sitting. And the ultimate goal is that at the end, they know exactly what they need to do. And if they want, then they know how to work with me. And then that's how we start the relationship. So actually, for me, a lot of people come into the universe and they buy later. So that first purchase doesn't happen then, but they are greeted with, okay, if you purchase during that entry period, it's 5 days, there's a discount. Come by, come join. It's going to be, this is, 20% off. And then the discount closes. And if they didn't buy, they can still buy, they can still join later on, but it's going to be at that full price. And they're going to come into a cadence where they're repitched every 2 or 3 months. And of course, there's flash sales, there's things that I do in the emails, always not enough to do. But anyway, they also have other purchases that they can do during that time. And a lot of people end up buying on the rebuy. Or sometimes later on, they want to get on the phone and then we can work something out there too.
Tell us about what they're buying. What is your offer? What do they get and for what price?
So do you want me to do the webinar offer or just the main?
Well, when you say main, you're talking about like what's advertised every day on your website?
Exactly, yeah.
I think it's helpful to hear the differences between the two as well.
Yeah. Okay. So my program is basically a group coaching that I walk you through basically from your first interest of working on a super yacht to stepping on board and actually doing it. So I've got half the course is all the resource, the training videos and all the materials that make that happen. But everyone's favorite part and the harder to fulfill part is me, right? It comes at a hybrid where it's basically a soft coaching program because there's multiple coaching calls with me. There's monthly coaching calls that I do with everyone, and they have anytime access to me via Voxer. So, they can be sending me voice messages, videos, photos, and I'll respond to them within 24 hours because everyone's on a different time zone. So I gave myself a little bit of a buffer, but it works really well because as we were talking before, this is a niche where even though the information can be looking in front of you, and like some people say, oh, well, I could look this up on Google if I wanted. People desperately want the accountability and people desperately want someone to work with them because the most valuable thing to everyone, and I can see it in my numbers, isn't always what's tucked away in that third video on section whatever. Like what they want is they want to get on that call and you can see they're so relieved afterwards. They just want to be like, am I crazy? Can I do this? in your experience, does it look like I can do this? Am I a candidate for it? Like, and when I go, yeah, and this is what you're going to do, and this is why you're good, because look, Johnny over there, he's in the community, he had less experience than you. That that interaction right there is so valuable to people. It really puts them at ease. That then they feel like they can do it, and then they take everything and go with it. But if I didn't have that call, at least even that first entry point, I don't think I'd be anywhere near as successful.
Tell me about the pricing.
Oh, sorry, sorry, I got caught away. So the pricing for that whole program is $997, but the most common way that people like breaking that up is also into a monthly plan, which is something that I implemented because in my niche, people are looking for work, so they don't typically always have work or have a lot of fun. So the good thing about the monthly plan, and I have it right now at 119 per month for 12 months, is it kind of treats it in a way like a membership and creates recurring revenue, which has been really nice for me in a way because I know, okay, the predictability is I can make this much at this time. It can also be a thorn in my side because it's hard to see a $1,000 sale and it's like, oh, I'll get that in a year. But that's the pricing model. And like I said, a lot of people do the monthly plan. And one of the things that I even use as a sales tactic is I tell people, look, most of my people find a job within 2 to 4 weeks after they get on the job hunt. So if you're worried about making payments, I'm not going to say, hey, only know that you have 2 payments worth in the bank. But you know what I mean? It's easy to say. So if you're worried about the full price, don't worry. That's going to be offset, by the time you start working on board. And that's worked really well. And people are receptive to that. And it comes true, right? They're not coming knocking later saying, hey, I don't have a job and give me money back. So it's been really, really nice.
So I could go, I'm not on your website right now, but I could go to your website and I could sign up right now at this pricing basically, right?
Correct. Yeah. If you go to my website at the top, if you can dodge all the free webinar buttons, you'll probably land on the courses, and then that's where it's going to show you the regular sales page. That's 990. Well, it's right now you're going to see it for 997 and 97 per month because I haven't implemented the new pricing. I was going to send out a final email blast this weekend, but it is going to be going up this week.
Yeah. So I don't think we've mentioned the actual name of your brand, your website yet. So it's
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
superyachtsundayschool.com, superyachtsundayschool.com. So what I'm getting at is like anybody could go there right now. They can see the sales page. They could even buy at that price. But you mentioned the webinar, right? The funnel.
Mhm.
Your incentive to get people to buy with an evergreen deadline within your funnel is, I think you already mentioned 20% off. Like they get a discount on the price. Is there anything else different about the offer, or is it just the price is different?
At the moment, the only difference that they get is if they buy during the webinar, they're going to get the discounted price, right? And in that grace period, they're going to get it at 20% off. And if they do that fast action and they buy it at the beginning, they're also going to get, and they pay in full, then they're going to get a free CV that I also designed. So that's the only change too. That bonus doesn't exist. If you go on the regular page and buy it, even if you buy it in full, it doesn't say I'm going to make your CV. But when you do it through the webinar and you pay in full and you do it during that first deadline, I do pitch that. So that's a difference as well.
So just in case anybody's like, he designed a CD, like why are they listening to music? He's saying CV as in Victor, like a resume, right? That's what we're talking about here.
Correct. Yeah. When you work in yachting, one of the things you do is adopt a ton of British and all over the world sayings. And CV or curriculum vitae was a new thing for me. It's a new thing for most Americans, but that's just how the rest of the world talks about resumes. If you really want to get into it, there's certain sections that exist in each one, but it's not important. It's basically your slip of paper that sells you to all the yachts and says
Yeah.
that you want to work aboard.
It's kind of sounded like you said CD, like as in compact disc at first, which I was like, well, I didn't know you offered a CD. That's cool, but not, just wanted to clarify that. Cool. So look, we've been through the offer, we've been through the funnel. Let's talk about traffic. You've only briefly like touched on traffic. You mentioned like 50,000 people or something. How are you driving traffic? How are you getting eyeballs on your stuff?
The number one traffic source that I use right now is Instagram. And the number one way people get to me is by commenting at any one of my posts that I say, comment this and I'll get you my free masterclass. Or they can go to the top of my Instagram profile or pretty much any social profile that I have. And the link in bio is always going to be directly to sign up for the webinar. And if they go into Google and start searching certain yachting related stuff, that's also going to have some keywords that I've been working on, but that's also something I'm slowly starting to grow. So there's a few entry points, but the main, I'd say probably over 75% is going to be Instagram. We're growing on TikTok as well now. We're reposting all our stuff there, starting to repost on YouTube Shorts. And I'm also starting to play with Facebook, but still the number one way is Instagram. So if they fall in love with the content, they'll start to follow. They'll start learning more and more about yachting, more and more about how easy it is for them to do it, how beautiful it is, etc. They fall in love, they click, they watch, they get emotional, they love it, they want to do it, and then we start working together. And that's why I also offer the discount. I know we all do it when you watch the webinar, but I really can't think of a situation where I can pre-frame you with enough information about yachting unless you sit through it, right? Even if you sit through so much of my content, it's things that you don't really understand fully at first. Like people have questions about visas. They worry about a lot of like really micro details that aren't even that important. So I know that they need to be sat down and someone go explicitly, okay, look, this is how it works. And that's why I also really encourage people, even if I know they're going to buy, and I sometimes I'm really transparent with them. I say, hey, look, I really think you would benefit from going through this, but yeah, if you want to have that conversation now, let's do it. Because I like to let the webinar do the work when I can too.
What have you learned about Instagram, right? When you started building your audience on Instagram a couple years ago, you mostly probably didn't know much of what you were doing. Today you do, because you've grown a significant following on Instagram that is the top of the funnel for a 5-figure a month business, right? So what would you go back and teach yourself when you were getting started with Instagram that you've learned over the last couple of years?
So also for full transparency, Super Yacht Sunday School is a 2-man or a 1-couple operation. So my partner's heavily invested with the Instagram side, the graphic design, the website. So I can't pretend to say I know all of Instagram or anything like that, because she's the genius behind that. But what I've learned and what I remember hearing so much at the beginning and still resonates true is that audience is everything. And having an audience that's engaged and believes in you and thinks you're authentic and all these things, it's so important. Especially now we have people that are copying us, and I see a lot of stuff on Instagram, but people really have always resonated with our stuff. And I think that's ultimately led to our success, because a lot of times in our niche, especially when something goes and starts selling, right, it's natural for everyone to hate it and go, oh, they sold out. Oh, that's. And we have a really loyal following from yachties, from professionals in our industry. And I think it's because it's always been that no BS, honest, this is what it is. And it was focused on building an audience for so long. Even that first year, I would say selling wasn't even second, third, fourth. Like it was way down on the list. I wanted it to be higher, but I think I always wanted it to feel like legitimate, authentic advice. And that was what it was. I remember hearing give first, right? Serve first. Like I've always heard a lot of iterations of that. But I remember hearing that your first year, if you can just give value, it'll start to pay dividends later on. And I didn't want that to be true, because I wanted to start making money month one, $10,000. But it doesn't work that way. At least it didn't for me. But if I could go back, I'd probably tell myself to start building that audience even sooner, right? When I was working in yachting, that's when I should have been recording everything. And that's when I should have been getting that following. But, I was a rebel. I didn't want to use social media, and I thought it was a way for control, whatever you want to call it. I didn't want to do it. So I didn't have that passion to just start recording myself. And I was like, man, if I could have been one of the first people in yachting, my account could be at 1 million now. It could be at 2 million. Who knows? But it's early on enough. I'm happy with where we are. But that's what I'd say. Start your audience as soon as possible. Start growing it. Start serving it. Even if you don't have anything you want to sell, just start making content that's relevant and just see what works, because what you think works doesn't always work. And you put a lot of effort into some things and it goes flat. And then you just throw up a reel about nothing sometimes with some text on it and it blows up. And sometimes it's with seasons too. Like this trend is hot now, and then you use it again a year later and it doesn't work as much.
Let's talk next about the software and tools that you're using and loving, and wouldn't know what you would do in your business if you didn't have them.
I think I'm a bit of a tech junkie in terms of tools sometimes, man. Like I go really down the rabbit hole, but let's talk, what would the business run with? So Kajabi is where I host the course. And actually, it's not even where I host the course so much anymore. I use Heartbeat as my community. Shout out to Christina, who mentioned me on the podcast as well. That was great to hear. But Heartbeat's where I do all the social, the community, the course. But I still take payments and handle all of that back end on Kajabi. That's where the website's actually built. So I've got that. We mentioned the urgency earlier, so that's used. Deadline funnel is what allows me to change the price or change the offer or do whatever virtually for anyone after a certain time period. I couldn't do anything without that. In terms of organization, I've gotten really, really into Notion, so that's been nice to try to organize things in a way that I can access them. It kind of acts as in a way I've got it working like a CRM and also running a lot of the business on that. I'm trying to think of important tech tools. I mean, I use a lot of stuff. Like I even use PandaDoc for people to sign an agreement, but that's not important. I'm trying to think what are the big things we use.
I mean, you've hit the big ones, right? You got to have
Yeah.
somewhere to have your website and take payment. That's Kajabi.
Well,
You've got to, if you're doing evergreen urgency, you got to have deadline funnel. You're using that. You have to have a place for your course and community. For you, you're using something that I know a few people using, but I think it's newer to the scene. From what I've seen, it's pretty cool. Heartbeat. You mentioned Christina. That's Christina Umarez, who has been on the podcast a couple of times. Is she the one that first started using Heartbeat? Is that what you were saying?
no, man, don't take that from me. That was all me. I'd
Yeah, I
have been
thought
the one to
so.
bring it to OCG because I was looking at different platforms. I was looking at I was looking at what was it called? Circle at one point. But anyway, Heartbeat's great. I really love that. I got it on a really good deal. I love getting tech at good deals because I really hate how so much tech nowadays is a subscription based software. And I don't think everything needs to be Netflix. That's why I also like Flowdesk because it's really cheap. I think it's $25. Maybe it's $19 that I'm locked in because I got in so early. I know everyone loves ActiveCampaign and all of those tools, but it really irks me to pay so much per user, even though I know you get extra functionality. So anyway, that's pretty much the stuff that I use. I use a lot of small bells and whistles, but that's the big stuff.
All right, next, let's do a little role play. All right. I'm gonna come to you pretending I'm somebody else needing advice. I'm gonna give you a couple of different situations. All right. So we'll start with the easy one. Like I'm a beginner, right? I have knowledge of something like you did with yachting, and I know I want to put it out there in the form of an online course, a coaching program, like some sort of digital product. What advice do you have for me, Hugo?
The first thing I want to make sure is that you're really, really serious that this is something you want to do because it requires a lot of investment in time. Not so much money, but in time. And it's going to be stressful. You're going to think twice. But okay, let me give you real advice. So, what would I say to myself or someone that has knowledge? I'll say, be sure that it's something that you're passionate about. I think that's been a really good saving grace for me. I wouldn't say that I was passionate about the sea and that's why I got into yachting, but I do love working with people and I love helping people. Even when I worked in university, I was always tutoring. I've always been someone that likes helping people. If I didn't do that, if I didn't like that, then it wouldn't be a coaching program. It'd probably be more of a course. So figure out what your strength is and what you're really good at and see how you can make that be the part that shines in your program. Especially for me, knowing that my strength was having the licenses, being a captain. That's what people respond well to, that having that figurehead involved in their process makes them feel okay. So that's what I leaned on. If if my talent was music or something like that, making sure that the content relating to that in the course was really, really good. So I think tailoring your content of your course to what you think to what the strength is and what you're actually good at is really, really important. But I think, like we were talking before, audience, man. So if you know that you want to do this, if you're thinking about it, go out and start creating an audience of something around your interest. Even if I had a friend call me this morning that he wants to start something as well. And he saw that I'm doing an entrepreneurial venture and he was asking me questions. And again, I told him, go out there and figure out who it is you want to talk to and just go on that social media channel and reach them and start making content about it and go from there. Don't worry about how much am I going to be priced at, when am I going to sell or any of that stuff. Like create an audience. Is that kind of what you're looking for? I'm kind of confused.
Exactly, man. I
Yeah,
wanted you to answer it however you wanted to answer it because you were in that situation more recently than I was in that situation,
I
right?
see.
So I really wanted to hear your perspective, knowing where you are today. That's where you were a couple of years ago. What would be your advice? Because it's, my perspective is just one perspective, and it's valuable to hear others. You ready for my second scenario?
Sure.
Okay. So second role play would be Hugo. Look, I started about a year ago. I've been in Jacques' program for a year now, and I'm just not where I wanted to be. Making a couple $1,000s a month. And it's a lot more work than I expected, and results are a lot slower than I expected. What do you think I should do?
I think double down and burn the bridge, man. You've already come this far. You can't go back. And that's a bit of a joke, but it's also true. I mean, with yachting, it's the same thing. You get onto a new yacht, and 3 months later, sometimes I was thinking, do I like this one? Should I stay here? Is full time for me on this one, or should I step off? And I've always been one to wait through things. You know, my what I tell my students, even in yachting, I go, hey, give it 6 months. If you really, really don't like it after that, or it just doesn't seem like it's a good fit, okay, pull the cord then. But I've always been someone that sticks through tough times, and I think that helped me for the better with this. And same thing, if you've already gone that far, if you're actually putting in the reps and you know you're following the steps and it's just not working yet, and I think, yeah, just hold on because yes, there's no guarantees in life. And with this program, of course, there's no guarantees. You don't promise you're going to make a certain amount after a certain amount of time. And that's what I like. That was actually what really brought me to the program because so many people online, I think they try to promise you X amount of money in X amount of time, right? $30,000 in 90 days, whatever it was. And it was never about that. It was, hey, I'm going to show you how to build a functioning online course business that's profitable and that you can, get your maximum impact, money, freedom, and, also achieve a lifestyle that you want. So it was more about that. And that's what really stuck with me. So going back, like I was saying, stick with it. Keep going because not everyone gets to even that point that I was in, right? Not everyone gets to the profitability part. Not everyone gets to even having customers that are saying, hey, like I reached my transformation. I did it. It was because of you, right? And that was what also helped me at the beginning because getting such like amazing feedback from people, or I would get messages, hey, I didn't buy your program, but wow, I'm in Mexico now on this super yacht and it's because of your content. Like next time, if I ever see you somewhere, I'd love to buy you a beer. And yeah, you can't really take that anywhere. You can't spend it on rent, but that stuff was really heartwarming to me. And that's always been the most fulfilling part of this. And it helped me think like, no, I know I'm on the right path. I know people are noticing it. Like I really been stubborn. Like I know I just need to keep going ahead. So I think I would tell myself to do that as well.
So that's a great answer. That's a great answer, but I don't know that everybody's going to be satisfied with just stick with it, right?
Yeah.
So let me try to poke and prod to try to get a little more actionable. Think back when you were bringing in $1,000 to $2,000 a month, okay? And you're like, you see, when you're at that point, you're like, man, it's working. Like strangers on the internet are paying me money, but it's not enough to call it like a real business. To like, it's barely paying the bills of my coaching and my software, and then there's a little bit extra for me to go out to one nice dinner a month, something like that. So it's like it's not where I want to be, but it's also like making money, so I don't want to quit. How did you go and turn that situation into $10,000 to $20,000 a month? What steps did you take? Was it simply driving 10 times more traffic, or was it more to it than that?
So the traffic problem was always something for me at the beginning. I wasn't getting enough people into the funnel to then really test that everything was working. I thought it was working and it seemed like it was working, but that was always a problem for me. So back when I was struggling to break that $3,000, $2,000 limbo, what I decided was, look, I'm just going to keep what's working, right? Because I am getting some sales passively. I am looking and just noticing money coming into the account, but it's just not enough. But what else can I do? And that was when I first started looking at doing live webinars. It was already pretty similar to what I was doing before. It just had to kind of think a little bit outside the box and not even by that much. I was like, I'll just do the same thing live. So if you're not getting what you want and you have an audience, I think just start trying different things. Don't feel locked in that you can only talk to them a certain way. Oh, they're only webinar customers, so I've got to wait for them to have the next relaunch. Like, no, that's also why I do sales calls now, because I've learned that you got to take responsibility for this business on your own too. It is automated, but it doesn't mean you have to be hands off. And if I want to, I actually do feel now that if I want to turn on the water a little bit faster, I can, right? I can suddenly put out some email campaign about something that I've never sold. I can start talking about it on Instagram. I could probably go on and do a live about it and probably generate some buzz and sales. I want to obviously have everything, like you mentioned, in an evergreen way that I don't have to keep turning and tinkering and whatever. But you told me in one of our calls, if you got to hustle, that's why we're here, right? We're here to earn money. It's great to do it passively, but if you need to do something about it to better your situation, then go and do it. And taking that into my own hands was one of the biggest factors, because when I did that, I went 1 month, I made 3,000, I think just shy of $4,000. I started doing some live webinars. I started doing a lot more social media content. I think we were putting out basically 3 pieces of content per day. It was a carousel, a blog post, and a video, right? And then we started doing live webinars. And that next month, I made just over $12,000 in revenue. So that was instantly past what I did. And I never even went anywhere close to what I was after that. I think the next month after that was about $6,000. Then it was 8,000. Then it was about 5-figure months. So again, I could tinker a little bit. Oh, I threw a live webinar here, made maybe like 4 or 5 sales. But I think once I did that, I don't know, I felt like that was the point when something happened and Instagram realized they started showing my stuff to people. I went from 8,000 followers. I kept pounding it with content. And then pretty soon, within the next 2 or 3 months, I was at 25,000 followers. And then within the next 3 months, I was at 50,000 followers. And that's where we are now. And I sit back sometimes and I think like, holy hell, how did that happen? And basically in 8 months, I've got almost 45,000 new people. It's been really impressive. But again, being consistent and just trying to drive people to make decisions. Oh, okay, people aren't buying. Let's start doing Instagram lives. Oh, they're not doing this. Let's start reaching out to them like this. So just being flexible. And I didn't hear of anyone talking like that. That was one of the things when I was listening to this podcast, listening to so much. I always thought everyone had just a really chill experience and they just got to where they were. And I never heard of, yeah, I wasn't making money, so I had to do this. And when I got there, I was like, is there something wrong with me, or is the system broken? Like, what's going on? Is it the algorithm? But, everyone's got their own journey. And like I said, it doesn't have to be linear.
That's good stuff, man. Good advice. Hugo, thanks for joining me, man. Congrats on all the success. Thank you for your support of me and my work over the past few years. Really appreciate that. And we've done the call to action, Super Yacht Sunday School. Anywhere else people should go? And then what's next for you? Where are you going with this?
If anyone wants to follow me, Super Yacht Sunday School, you can find me on all social channels, but Instagram and all the short form ones will be the most active. You can also go to superyachtsundayschool.com and then you'll see the free training and you can tune in from there. Next for me, it's probably going to be the next iteration of this course. And then I'm going to put out a product for existing crews. So I've got certain elements that I've already started making, but I basically want to help not just get people into yachting. I want to help people through their whole journey with it. Licenses, additional training. There's a lot of things in low-hanging fruit for me there. Maybe in this form of a continuity offer, so being more of a membership style, but also incorporating some of the touch points, right? I want people to feel like they have some access to me, so that'll include monthly calls and a lot of other things. I haven't drawn it up, but that's where I'm going with that. And ultimately, I'd love to coach people then out of yachting, right? So when you're thinking of maybe going into online business and you want to learn about all these things that I've already had to do, I'm your man. Let's talk about it. Maybe it'll look something like this. Maybe it'll look a little bit different. You never know. But having a yacht version, I think would be great because my audience, like I told you, we've already burned the bridge once on normal life. So most of them aren't thinking, I can't wait to go back to being an accountant. They want to go back and it may be real estate or it might be crypto or it might be online business, but it looks different for everyone. But everyone wants to do an alternative type of life where we can keep traveling like I'm doing now and having freedom and having people, maybe even having people come work for me at one day, right? A company for yachties by yachties that now also charters yachts and does so many things. But anyway, one thing at a time. I want to help people through the industry and then help them out and then continue to grow the recruitment and the other services at the same time. I also wanted to just throw a plug. I know we talked a lot about the program. Really, Jacques, you know your stuff, man. And I wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for all the help that you and your team have had in my business. I really, really appreciate it. It's been a great journey. I've loved getting to learn so much of this. It's completely different than yachting. And, it's not as fun as yachting, but it's been really fun to start taking ownership of creating a life now on land, right? At first, I went into yachting because I wanted something different than what I was offered before. I wanted the freedom, I wanted the travel. And this was an opportunity, and it's showing that it was a great investment it's helping me create the life that I want to live, whether that's looking like part of the year living in a certain country or maybe part of the year getting to be back on a yacht, right? There's so much I can do, but having the freedom because of this online course business and because of you guys helping me every step of the way has been really, really just monumental.
That was very kind of you, man. That's very, very kind of you to say. I'll spare you, and I'll say some kind words in like the intro and outro outside of this conversation because you've been just such a valuable member of the program as well. So thank you so much for saying that. But you put in the hard work, man, and it's really paying off. And I'm glad we were finally able to have you on the podcast. So this was great, man. I think a lot of people are going to get a lot of value out of this.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, and really excited to keep moving forward, right? I don't know where the ceiling lies for this, but I'm excited to see how far I can push it.
Right on. Thanks, Hugo. Thanks again to Hugo for coming on and being so candid, sharing his story, and for the kind words he shared about being in my program. Hugo has been an absolute dream client. He is passionate. He is motivated. He's coachable. He loves helping others, both those that he's helping with his niche as well as others in our community. And I just can't thank him enough. And it's been such a pleasure to get to know him. Hugo started in Genesis and worked his way up to our next level program and is continuing to get better every day. If you want me and my team to help you, like we've helped Hugo and so many others, the doors are officially open to our special offer for 2 programs. That's 20% off. It's special bonuses and that one secret bonus for the first 10 of you. That includes even more time with me. So to learn more and take advantage of this offer, head to ocgcoaching.com. ocgcoaching.com. When you go there, you'll find all the details about exactly what you get in each program, how it works, what you can expect, what the pricing is. All the details are there. And if we left anything out and you have a question, there's a place right on that page to ask questions. And look, this certainly isn't for everyone. This is not a program where we're simply trying to get as many people into it as possible. We require people to apply, and we only accept those that we know we can help and those that we kind of want to hang out with because we spend a lot of time with the people inside of our programs. It's the program that I wish that I had years ago as a course creator, trying to find the shortcuts to where I wanted to go. So once again, that's ocgcoaching.com. Go now if you want one of those first 10 spots, and the offer is going away completely at the end of next week. That is going to do it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening once again. For the show notes from today, head to oc.show/234. And don't forget to take action on what you've heard today. I'm rooting for you.